everybody. I'm Natalia Bonner.
I'm Brad Bonner.
We're married. Okay, so 2019 has been a really crazy year for us. A lot has changed around here. Even though I have been machine quilting full-time for the last 12 years, we've made a lot of changes, really awesome and exciting changes this year. And we're excited to continue moving forward in the direction we have been in 2020. So we thought it would be fun today just to take a second, don't you think, and kind of recap, kind of look back on some of the really fun quilts and different things that we did in 2019.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So I kind of just went through some old videos from the last year and just picked out a few that were some of my favorite, and I thought it would be fun to share with you, just one for every month. And if you want to, take a second and check them all out, it's kind of fun to go back and see ones, even rewatch ones that maybe you watched a while ago. Or if you're new here, maybe you've never even seen some of these older videos. So I thought it'd be fun to start out today with January's video. In January, one of the first quilts that I shared was one of the adorable fancy forest quilts. And I actually broke it down to where I shared, just a video for each of the blocks, because there's a lot of different little creatures on the quilt. So the bunny block was one of my favorite blocks that I quilted this year. So let's take a little peek at that one.
Fancy forest.
When I move up to the top, so when I get up to his ears and start quilting on his ears, I am actually going to do a little bit of feather work. I love the look of feathers and feel like they're a great way to just kind of soften up his ears a little bit. But also, I'm going to be quilting feathers in some of the other elements on this quilt, so I feel like it's important to bring them here into his ears. So nice bump back feather. If you need more inspiration or direction with your feathers, make sure to check out my book, Visual Guide to Free Motion Quilting Feathers. I also have an online interactive class where I walk you step by step through the machine quilting process of quilting feathers. I hope this video is...
Okay, so for February, I gotta pick this one. So I went through and looked at the videos. I came up with the curl background filler. It's a cool one. I love it.
This fun little curl design is a fabulous background filler. It's really, really forgiving, and it plays really nicely in a lot of areas. It could be done larger and quilted as an overall design, or it can be done small like this and used as a background filler. So when I quilt out this design, I start out, generally like I did with this design, I'll start either on the edge of the quilt or near a border or a sashing, somewhere that gives me a place to start. Then from there, I'll stitch one curl, curling in towards the center. Then to come out of that fun little curl, I'll use my stitching line that I've already stitched on and use that as my guide to stitch back out of the curl. Now, something you'll pay attention to here as you see me quilt this design, occasionally my stitching lines are not right on top of each other. They're a little bit apart, they kind of cross over a little bit. I'm actually okay with that look, the look of them sometimes crossing over a little bit, because I feel like...
Then in March, I quilted the really adorable mama hen quilt, and I shared a bit of it here on YouTube. You can take a second and check it out. But also, if you haven't yet had a chance to join my Patreon page, make sure you do hop over there after you finish this video and check out my Patreon page. So with this video, this is just a little sneak peek, a little snippet of this quilt. But over on my Patreon page, I go into detail, more in depth, walking you actually step by step from start to finish my machine quilting process on a whole entire quilt. And this is one of those.
Okay, for April, Natalia had a very cool bed quilt, right?
Yeah.
She shared a little bit of on YouTube, a little sneak peek, and then more on her Patreon page. So this is just a little sneak peek on YouTube. Very cool bed quilt here.
So in May, one of my favorite quilts that I quilted was this really simple patchwork quilt. So it's super basic quilt, but I was able to really bring it to life with my custom machine quilting and really bring on a whole new light to this quilt. The quilt was gorgeous before I started quilting it. Don't all get me wrong, but the results that I was able to create with machine quilting just make me so happy. So take a second and check that one out.
All the way around. Now, after I've gone all the way around once, then I'll repeat that process, adding a second line of curves into that design. Now, you'll see this often in my machine quilting. I love to add that second curved line into there. The spacing on here is 1/4 inch, but the reason that I like to add that curved spacing, that little spacer, that echo, whatever you want to call it, I like to add it because it gives a nice place for my eye to rest. If I were to quilt the straight lines that I'm going to quilt with these scallops, just a single scallop, it doesn't really give my eye a place where I can just rest. I feel like it can become so busy and there's so much going on that there's never that place. Personally, I love the look of stitch in the ditch, so I will go through and stitch in the ditch. As you'll notice, there are a few places where I will stitch over my stitching line a couple of times. This is the reason, well, one of the many reasons why I love to use the So Fine.
And let's not forget, May was huge around here. May was when we announced that we were doing our stitch along. So that was huge. Let's not forget that. That was life-changing stuff for us. So May was a big month around here.
Yep. Hey quilty friends, I'm Natalia Bonner and I am beyond words excited to be here today and to officially introduce you to my stitch along, Let's Stitch, where for 365 days, I'm going to be sharing a machine quilting video tutorial here on YouTube with each of you so that you can learn how to quilt with machine quilting rulers. So super duper excited. I'm going to tell you all the basics, kind of the tools and all the things that you'll need first. Then we'll jump over to my machine and I will walk you through some basics that you really need to know before you start any ruler work. Now, before I actually get to the video, there are a couple of things that I want to tell you about. First of all, everybody is invited to stitch along and sew. There is no cost to you to watch the videos. The only things that you need are a machine in good working condition that you know how to use. In June, I stitched out this adorable fall breeze quilt.
And day one of the stitch along.
Oh,
June
yes.
1st. Don't forget that one.
Don't forget.
That was a scary day.
It was, but I think it's gone pretty well.
Yes.
And I personally have loved, for myself, not just sharing these videos for you guys to all learn, but personally, I feel like by stitching out these blocks, 365 of them, that my own creativity has grown so much. Yeah, it's been a really awesome thing for me.
for July, as most of you, or maybe most of you don't know, I handle a lot of the emails and things like that while Natalia sits in here and quilts.
I stand.
So she stands and quilts. And good segue. A question I got a lot was, why is her machine so high? So we actually just said, let's just make a video of it, and it was awesome, and a lot of people loved it. So that's why I picked the "Why is my long arm so high?" video for July.
Okay, so now we've moved over to the machine. I am standing up straight right now, and you can see this right here is the highest bar which the quilt wraps around right here. So when I was originally quilting and had my very first machine set up, this bar right here was referred to as the belly bar, and the belly bar was set up more like down at my belly button height. So it's not like a huge amount of difference in height, but I did raise it up a little bit. So by raising up the machine, I feel like for me, as I stand at my machine, you can see here that my arm is now at a more comfortable height. I don't feel like I'm reaching up or anything like that. It's more comfortable right here. But also, as I stand here, the quilts, everything on my machine is more at my elbow height. So I don't know if you can kind of see this elbow height right here, but everything, my working surface is more at my elbow height. So as I'm resting, you can see that my arm would be resting right here. Because I'm quilting just one-handed, I like to rest this second arm right on my quilts as I'm working and then work from there. So in August, one of my favorites, I've shared a lot of them. It was kind of hard to pick out which were my favorites, but one of the favorites in August was the fun swirly feather stop border video tutorial that I shared. And this is another one where I did share this little tutorial, kind of sneak peek, but then I shared even more of this whole entire quilt over on my Patreon page.
And the kids went back to school.
Yes!
So to quilt this design, the way that I'm going to quilt it, I'll begin by stitching a single swirl. As I stitch out this swirl, I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail on that swirl so that I can swirl into the center. Then I'll swirl back out of the center, and I'm okay if there's a little bit of spacing in between my lines, if they kind of cross over a little bit. Personally, I feel like it gives it kind of a ribbony look. Now you'll see here, as I approach that corner, my swirl didn't go all the way up into the corner. So I just added a few extra feathers into there to make it fit that corner nicely. As I'm stitching out these swirls, you'll notice that every swirl that I quilt, I'm alternating directions. This is something that I feel is very important. It really gives it a nice overall swirly look. If I don't alternate directions, it kind of appears to be more like a wave looking, which on like a water quilt would be fabulous. But for a quilt like this where I don't want it to look so watery or wavy, adding in that.
Okay, so September was back to my choice. So I went with the easy background filler, kind of like what did you call it?
Kind of like macaroni.
A macaroni background filler. Love that one too.
To stitch out this design, I'll begin by stitching a little half circle, semicircle, whatever you want to call it. From there, after I've stitched the first circle, I'm going to stitch a small straight line that's about 1/4 of an inch long, and then stitch an echo around the outside of that fun little macaroni semicircle shape, whatever you want to call it. You'll notice as I'm stitching this out, sometimes that I do stitch 2, 3 echoes around the outside of it. Something else to remember as I stitch out this design, echoing is your friend. So whenever I need to travel to a new place to start another one of these macaronis or semicircles, I can always echo to travel to get to a new place. So randomly stitching little macaronis with echoes around the outside. I'll repeat that design until I filled in that background space completely.
So something else that I think is awesome in September is my birthday. Duh, who can forget that? No, but really.
We can't forget that.
But really, September was an awesome month because my newest book came out. If you guys know me or understand my book, I've written several books over the last 9 years, I think it's been, and they're kind of like my babies. It's a lot of work to write a book. For me, the process usually ends up taking about 2 years from the time I start, until I submit my proposal, all the way through the point where it's published. So it really is a labor of love and a lot of work. A lot of tears go into writing these books, a lot of smiles also, but they definitely are a labor of love for me. So when my newest book came out this year in September, I
was just absolutely thrilled. So it's called Visual Guide to Creative Straight Line Quilting. Another thing that came out around that same time this year was my Inside Out machine quilting ruler. So this is my newest machine quilting ruler. I've been sharing a lot of machine quilting with the Inside Out ruler here on YouTube with the stitch along blocks, you know, teaching you how to actually use these rulers, and it works well as a companion with my new book that came out this year. Take the Straight Line Quilting Challenge. Natalia Bonner fans unite. Learn 48 straight line quilting ideas and 13 fun variations. Find freedom in the constraints of straight line quilting and shine a spotlight on every intriguing angle. Use a long arm or home sewing machine to create geometric perfection, step by step. So in October, not only did I quilt a lot of really cool quilts, but I'm just going to tell you this funny little story because this is kind of how my crazy brain functions. It was a Saturday night and I went to bed early because I go to bed early like every day. And Brad thought I was asleep. He was in the family room watching probably football or something.
She's exactly right.
And I just started doodling. I think that I maybe even fell asleep and then woke back up, but this was like at 9 o'clock at night. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm in bed by 8. So I wake myself back up because I had this idea and I had to write it down and I had to share it. So I just doodled, and that night I drew out every single design that was to be taught in my new class, Let's Stitch Scallops. So that was a pretty awesome thing. I am over the moon excited about my brand new class that starts January 1st. If you haven't registered yet, do hurry and register because the fee will go up on January 1st, but it's going to be awesome. I love scallop borders. The panel you can see behind us is a sample for that class, and I am really excited to share this class with each of you.
And it is right around the corner.
I know. I'm Natalia Bonner. I am excited today to officially introduce you to my newest class, Let's Stitch Scallop Borders. So you guys know me, you know that I, first of all, love heavy quilting. I love sharing quilting, but I love quilting with machine quilting rulers. So I've got a brand new class that starts January 1st, 2020. Now, before I go any further, if you are seeing this video after January 1st, you can still join this class. It is available at any time, and you can just do the lessons on your own pace. A lot of the things that I'm going to tell you here refer to the first 5 weeks that this class will be going, but after that point, all of the lessons are still available wherever.
Okay, so for November, this was also my choice, and I love it when she does, her being Natalia, does the modern quilting with the straight lines with the straight line book coming out. This was one of my favorite videos of the year, hands down.
So this is that section that I'd mentioned, the upper left portion of the quilt as I had it laying there. And I am playing with what's already going on. So you can see here that I'm stitching right on top of those marked lines on the fabric. By doing this, because the quilt is so modern, but it's also has a lot going on, I feel like if I'm going to go through and add different geometric lines and things like that, that maybe go in different directions, I might actually, my stitching might fight with the actual quilt itself. And I don't want to do that. I want Kathy's piecing and her applique work to become the focal. That's what deserves all of the attention. So that's what I'm going to do.
So for December,
It's my birthday.
it was Brad's birthday in December, so it's another great month.
our kids had birthdays this year too, but
Yeah.
we just get excited about our own. No. So in December, some more straight line quilting. I shared a little bit of this really awesome elephant quilt with a lot of geometric quilting. I shared it with you.
I've been doing on the main part, the body of the elephant. So this portion right here, I know it's zoomed in, so it's a little bit difficult to see exactly where I'm quilting, but this is the trunk of the elephant. So just a couple of fun things when I have quilted out these gorgeous elephant quilts. One of the first things that I definitely try to do, well, with all figurative type quilts that I machine quilt, I try to look at the quilt, and if there's little elements, for example, the trunk, that I feel like definitely needs quilting to try to make it look as much like a trunk as I can, then that's where I'll start out and kind of focus. Also, this quilt is not a huge quilt. Generally, I do start quilting on the left side of the quilt and work left to right, but sometimes with a quilt like this, I'll start in the center of the quilt and then kind of work out from there. I know that it's basted out on my long arm really nicely, so it's still going to stay flat, and I'm not concerned about tucks or anything like that happening. So a fun thing that I do
as I was quilting it. So sometimes I feel like, yeah, I still know what's going on with technology, and I still think I'm kind of hip because I don't know, but we don't. Apparently we have no idea. So our daughter keeps telling me about TikTok, some app online and on your phone or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care what it is. It's too much for me to try to figure out a new app at this point. So she's like, no, Mom, you should share something on TikTok. I'm like, no, it's not. The things I've read about it are not for me. But she talked us into it, and she filmed a video of me quilting on TikTok.
15 seconds.
It was 15 seconds long with a little bit of music, and it went viral on TikTok. And that was a pretty cool, even though we have no idea really what it means, seeing 22 million views on one of my machine quilting videos was pretty freaking awesome this year.
We didn't really know how to handle it.
We were really excited. We had to go on a special, our little kind of date when we get away from our kids is just to go on a car ride. We don't know why. We just like to do it. And we had to go on a special car ride because
we didn't know what was going on.
So it really has been a great year. 2019's been awesome. It's been fun to introduce several new products and classes with you guys. We have really, really awesome, exciting things, don't you think, for 2020? I wish I could just tell you all of the things that are going to be happening next year, but I can't. I have to keep them a secret for now. So make sure you subscribe, and we are so excited to have you all here and continue on.
Thank you for everything. Happy New Year.